The properties of steel make it a superior material. Tensile strength, resistance to corrosion, only the hardest. Crazy shit, really. Listen to Living Proof Radio. The full experience on our Patreon. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for allowing us here. You got a beautiful space. I know you've been here for a while in this undisclosed location, and been trying to make this happen for a while. So thank you.
Appreciate you guys coming through.
100%. You know, I've known about your graffiti for a very long time. One of the legends in our world and in our community, and I was thinking about what you think on the longevity as a writer. There's a lot of people who write, a lot of people who come and go. They get into street bombing, or they get into doing whatever it is that they're doing, and it's kind of hard to maintain for a long period of time. But you're one of the people who you've transitioned throughout your graffiti and your art. So what do you think about that?
Well, transitioning, yes, it's mandatory. It's just you evolve, right? So you start out, or I can speak for myself and say, well, I started out as a fan, then neighborhood, then writing on random shit, to learning the art side of it and piecing, and then kind of dancing in between of getting up and piecing and combining them. I felt that would last forever, but then you get old and shit starts to hurt, and then you get bills, or you want something better in life. So transition comes into play then, like, oh shit, when you find yourself going to fucking court, or you find yourself sitting in a cell and you're like, yo, I'm not doing this shit no more. This shit got me fucked up. Fucking with my money, fucking with my life, my freedom. So it all depends in your experiences what you're willing to tolerate, or the level of life you want to lead, right? So I feel, and this is an honest thing that I do feel, and I've said it before so I can recall it very easily. It's a young man's sport. When I was in my 20s is probably when I was really primed to do more. I was able to jump out of a window. Now that shit's not happening. I'll throw my hands up. You got me. I'm not running type shit. And that's no fun. So really, in essence, it's like, how can I put it? Where you are in life, something else would be suffering if you're giving too much attention to something else. So if you're really getting up, chances are your home life is fucked up, or your money's fucked up, or your relationship is fucked up. To create a balance, you can't go all in on something, right? You have to be able to take breaks and understand and give attention to certain things. So that was my case. I know for a fact that when I was really racking paint every day, hitting spots, scoping spots, racking, doing all the shit that I was doing during those days, other parts of my life were in complete fucking dysfunction. So longevity is if you make it to the next stage and you're dedicated and disciplined and you carry that with you. Because there's a lot of cats that paint, including myself, again, paint professionally and do things professionally, but you came upon this, maybe I frowned upon it early on, like, why are these cats just doing that? Why ain't they doing the real shit, right? Until you find yourself at that level. It's almost, you work so hard to get to a point, you earn the right to be able to chill. Like, you went hard, you played, all 4 quarters, you're going to sit this out, we're already winning type shit. So that's where I feel like the longevity of it falls on the individual. You could be an old cat, still hitting spots, still doing shit, still traveling, painting trains or whatever, if you have maybe financial freedom and you're in a position to do so. If not, and you're doing that, chances are you're a fucking bum and shit got you fucked up. Yeah. Or you fuck around in other areas of life. Because I don't know too many people that are killing shit in their 50s that are secure after graffiti and still doing it,
Do you feel okay with that? Do you feel okay with the fact that graffiti being a young man's game, meaning the street bombing aspect of it and the racking aspect of it, and do you feel okay with the fact that that time is that time and that your time is now? The things that you're doing now is what you're doing now. Are you fully invested in it, or do you ever wish you could? Do you ever feel like going to bomb crazy again like that, or are you
Every day,
chilling?
every day I feel I still look at spots, I still see shit. I mean, and I still do shit. We're on camera, so I ain't gotta whisper, but I still make shit happen. I was just in Europe and did some shit, and mostly I don't want to do it where I live and be out and about, right? So when I have the opportunity to travel, which the art has afforded me to do that, and see the world and experience things like that, I'm free when I go somewhere else. So that's when I'm like, yo, bet, let's do that. And which is pretty crazy when you think about it, because you don't know what the fuck you're walking into or who you really, that kind of thing. So, but it brings about that for me. Do I have any regrets or where it led me to be? I do recall when the switch happened, where the last few times I went out and it just was like, just something just wasn't right with it or whatever, and it was like, not like an emotional fucking violin situation, but it was like, yeah, you know what, this isn't where I need to be. Like, I have other shit that's really working out that I need to attend to right now, and needs my attention and is fulfilling. See, that's life though, right? If whatever the fuck it is you choose, if you choose to just write graffiti, and I know cats who've dedicated and who are older than me and who do this shit, and as long as you're happy, that's the goal, right? So you can't say, well, you don't have a car, you don't have a house, or you don't have, X, Y, and Z, but they may be happier than the person who got all that random shit that really doesn't mean anything to them. So again, it's an individual thing. For me, I'm okay with the transition because I jump in and out. I still creep out and will do some shit. I just want to make it count because I don't get to do it every day. So I have to really think about it and say, all right, if we're going to do this, let's do this. And I don't like wasting my time. That's the other thing about getting older in the art of graffiti, right? Is you realize it's not just hanging out, getting zooted, and going writing on some shit. Let's make this shit count. Let's make it worthwhile if we're gonna do it. Let's talk about it first, not just, oh shit, there's a bunch of cans in my trunk, let's just jump out and fucking bug out. No, let's figure this shit out. What's the best way? I don't want the problems, and I want the shit to be dope. That's just how I am, or how I've come to be. Because when it all comes down to it, that's really all that's gonna tell the story, is the actual image. Yeah. I'm not going to sit in front of the wall of the train and say the reason it looks like this is because, no, it doesn't come with a fucking story underneath it. So everything I do, I try and go, all right, let me think about that. Boom. And I slow it down and approach it in a different manner.
Yeah. It's wild to me because there are so many writers, especially now more than I feel like ever. I can't say that for a fact, but it seems like the one wall has so many writers on it. You drive around the city and you drive around the world and you see. But really, the people who make it to kind of like the level that you're at, which is like you were able to stay true to yourself and then make a job out of it. You were able to make a career and a life out of it past just bombing and racking. It's like the 1% of the 1%. Like most people transition into another job that has nothing to do with, or maybe kind of. Yours is like, you see your art and you see the shit that you do. It is very directly related. There's no like, you look at the pieces you do and it's not like a doubt like maybe this was inspired by Graph. It's very clear. And my question, which is a broad one, is how did that happen? Like, how did you get to go from painting illegally and being into the subcultures that we're into to then doing this as a job?
I could just simply answer that real simple. I manifested it. It's something that I saw myself doing, and I became that, right? So, and I did it within what I started with. I'm still doing the same shit I did when I was 13 that I'm doing at 50. So I just got better at it, right? It's like a cat that played basketball behind his house and then played in the neighborhood and then went and played in a little league or did whatever. Now we're in the NBA. But then there's a lot of cats in the NBA. So how do you separate yourself from the other players in doing this? Well, a lot of the other players went, contemporary art, or went this way and went that way with it to speak to a broader audience, maybe, and this and that. I still believe in graffiti, and I still love the whole package that graffiti offers artistically. Maybe not some of the characters that are involved in it aren't, my cup of tea, but to do what I do, I think when you're passionate about something, people see that and it comes through, right? So it's like you hear it, music, and wow, that shit is dope. Whether you even knew who that person was, it hits. And I feel that's really what I'm bringing. Like, I'm really digging into it and putting a lot of thought and skill and knowledge that I have gained over I'm writing now 40 years. And in New York, that's really not it, right? That's young. And trust me, I've been hearing that my whole fucking life. But if I was a neighborhood store and I was there for 40 years, it'd be like, yo, that store's been here forever. But as a graffiti writer in New York at 40 years, like, I'm still new to a lot of people, even though I have, all that I could lay out in front of you. So I'm okay with that end of it. I just keep building on it, never being satisfied and saying, this is it. This is what I want to do. I'm happy just doing this. There's so much more to offer. And with today's artists and paint and just opportunity, there's no saying where it would go. You talk to cats in the 70s or even in the 80s, you would have never thought it would have made it this far. The skill level would be out of this world and be worldwide, which it is, and then be almost like celebrity status in just from writing on shit. Like, you could really be that person if you really apply or care to be, right? So, and again, it's not for everybody. Not saying it is. Not saying you cats at home should turn around and say, oh, think about, not doing this and trying that. No. That's my story. It's an individual sport. You can't group it and just say, oh, those graffiti dudes, or, oh, you're supposed to do this, or, oh, that generation is that. It's individuals and what they do with it. It's not so much a team sport. This shit is like tennis. It's me out there hitting the ball. It's not us.
Yeah. Was there a point where you kind of had this planned out, or did it just really happen organically?
Never had a plan. I think it couldn't have happened. To be honest with you, I feel like the culture of graffiti art grew with me, and we grew kind of at the same pace. Where I came in, it was at a certain level. I was able to bridge between what was happening at that time into the future generation, and then social media came, and there was an explosion of just this information that was being shared. So I was able to travel and be a part of something where that wasn't happening in the 70s and 80s. There was no opportunities like that. So, but it happened when I was at a point where it was good for me to do. And if you asked anyone from any era, if this was brought to you during your prime, would you say, oh, no, I'm going to just stay in the tunnels and just write in the same fucking tunnels in this one city? Or are you able to go worldwide and experience all of this and turn people on to this whole culture? So it's like, right when it was happening, that's right where I was, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I feel, and it's still growing with it and still being a fan of what the generations have to offer that I see. And again, I'm able to travel to see personally, not just in my phone or whatever, and meet some of these young cats that are really fucking doing phenomenal shit and their passion. And that shit fuels me.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you said in some interview that graffiti is something to be lived, it's something to be experienced, and I feel like that's true for a lot of things. and we're kind of losing touch with that because of the fact that everything's online, everything is social
Yeah.
media, everything is internet, everything
It's
is
a gift and a curse.
no, 100%. Because there are really good things that come with that,
Right.
which is more exposure and also just the ability to learn about things that otherwise you would have no access to. But I feel like being able to go there and being able to see and smell the smells and like feel the textures and just like
Right.
that's something that I feel like, I'm not from a crazy past generation, but even like I came up during like when I first started getting into graffiti, like Instagram wasn't a thing. There was like Flickr and different photo sharing apps. And just like the difference between the people who are like 19 right now versus the people who were 19 when I was 19, I see a difference in just like the amount of things and opportunities that they have because of the devices and because of the shit. And it does give you a leg up, but there's a certain kind of style and a certain kind of like, I guess, flow and finesse that you can't replicate unless I feel like, lived the experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you there's no substitute for actually living it and doing it. You can't. But there are people who can just build a wall in their backyard and keep painting it and posting it, and they're the fucking man, or however that works out. So again, really being out there and mixing it up with other artists, other writers, and experience and things. And there's nothing like seeing something in person versus seeing it 2 inches in your fucking pocket.
It's different.
Way different.
100%. That's how I felt coming here.
Yeah. When you saw the painting down
Yeah.
the hall, you were, I thought this shit was smaller. No. Until you see things really, or you go and get out there and see what it is. And I'm not just talking gallery, legal campus. I'm talking about going, seeing the fucking bridge that kid painted and hung over. Like, oh shit, that shit is crazy in person, But it's just different. It's the internet. Like I said, it's a gift and a curse. It can help you and it could fucking hurt you if you get too emotional on there and start putting out shit that makes you look crazy. And there's a lot of cats that do that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, wow, dude, I had no idea dude got down like that. So it'll throw red flags up on people. If you just stay focused on what it is you're doing and don't get too personal and just put your best out there and realize people are watching.
Yeah.
So, talking crazy or thinking it's a locker room that me and you were just talking and you don't realize that the rest of the world is watching is a big mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody is just still learning how to deal with that shit.
Yes.
It's like a new thing that...
But I learned from the fucking dickheads that are out there doing the dumb shit. And I'm like, wow, that's not how I'm trying to fucking be.
Yeah.
Definitely. I appreciate you for jumping out that window for us, dude. What a bad look that is right there.
Yeah, you learn from the experience of others.
Right. He touched the stove for me.
Yeah.
I know that shit's hot now. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Nope. Hell no.
How do you approach it? Like the whole social media thing, especially as someone who's working doing fine art and doing the work that you do, it's like it creates a challenge because it's like the mass consumption, something that's real is going to take a minute to make.
Right.
And then you post it and then the next minute someone else posts some other shit and before you know it, it's like washed down.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time that I was more into it. I'll say that. I'm going back a few years now where it was like part of the whole experience, like paint, have the experience, and then share it with your boys. Because that's really what you were thinking of in the beginning until strangers started coming in and all of a sudden you were friends with these people, in cyberspace kind of thing. And then you realize, oh, this is bigger than just my crew looking at it or bigger than this. So you dealt with that in now you thinking like, okay, I don't want to fucking put this or I'm going to put this because of that or I shouldn't put this. So now you're really looking at shit. Now they give you filters how to adjust your shit. So you're not only the artist, you're like the fucking filmmaker, the director, the producer of your little mini commercial. And it's like your own business calling in that sense. And people could say whatever they want and say, oh, but it's nothing. Nobody cares. It's not that serious. Then why the fuck are you on there? If it's not, why are you on there more than my fucking 16-year-old niece? Because it is that serious and because you are paying attention. So let's not pretend that we're not. And if we're going to do that, like I said, same way I approach, painting and anything is let's think about it and let's do this shit right. So there's a right way to approach things, at least in my opinion. Yeah. Every once in a while, you could throw a curveball. You know, I love my dog. I used to put my dog up there all the time because I just thought it was great. Yeah. You know, so that was random for me to do. But mostly, I'm about art and what I'm working on, or what me and my team is working on, or what have you, and what I'm getting ready to do. But then you start putting up personal shit. I'm going to be here or I'm going over there. That creates animosity. That creates all kinds of feelings and provokes things in people. So again, you got to walk somewhere in between that. And it got to that point where I was just like, yo, I got to take a break from this shit. I really like real life way better, to be honest with you. Since in the past couple of years, I've pulled back immensely from being on there like religiously. I've went on a complete diet. I mean, I literally would post something every day. I would do a drawing or have a drawing that I had and post it. Now I'm just like, you know what? I keep a lot of this stuff back for myself because I want to experience, and I don't even look at my phone to be messing around with this stuff, and I feel freer.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
You reach a point that it at least I did where I got to that point where I was like, yeah, I got to go on a diet from this shit. And either it takes or it doesn't. You find yourself, oh, I need to go back. Yeah. Thank God I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that privacy is a luxury, and we're in the age of social media, we're doing like self-imposed publicity.
Oh man.
That once it gets to a certain level, you really come to understand like, yo, it is not good if everyone knows every little thing about you.
No, it's not good.
It's actually better if they know like way less.
Right. And you could portray it how you want.
Exactly.
You see people that sitting in front of a fucking toilet seat, but it looks like a private jet, airplane window or whatever, right? Some dumb shit like that. And the way that the girls act on here is out of this fucking world. And I can only imagine, and this is coming from an adult, right? We're grown the fuck up. Imagine being a young kid and being on there. The pressures of trying to be cool or impress people or be have people co-sign your existence must be fucking incredibly tough. So as an adult, we really have our shit together and have more confidence and self-awareness that we don't need that. We set our own standards for ourselves. But as a young person, you're still figuring out who you are, and I want to be cool like him or her. So I can only imagine. I feel bad for those generations that are fucked up behind it like that. But again, that's not my problem. You know? They'll work that out.
How speaking about that, like how different is the era that we're in now compared to the era that you came up bombing in, the era that we're like, I just feel like from all the stories that I hear from that general time period, it was like just a straight up different world and a straight up different New York.
Yeah, it completely is. I mean, you really had to, there was no cell phones. You had to go and meet somebody like, yo, I'm gonna meet you on the train station at X 10 o'clock and we're gonna go do this. And now it seems almost insane. Like, I'm not going all the way over there. He might not show up or this or that. That's one of the biggest things that I think about. All the places, like, as I still move and throughout the city, I can remember things that happened in certain places. And I was like, dude, I walked from there all the way to there. One night I got chased from here and this happened there. And I think that shit would not happen today in today's world, you know, between just different laws and different approaches and the way they fucking crucify people for shit like this and that. It just seemed like it was more chill in that, or I was more chill and I just didn't give a fuck. I think is more like it that I was able to do those kinds of things without worrying or having those concerns. So, you know, moving and navigating back then, and I say back then like it was a million years ago, but I'm talking mainly I started in the early 80s and I wrote more into the 90s is when I really made my moves on things. So 90s had a lot of cool shit. Best fucking rap music came out of the 90s, and you know, just graffiti in general was transitioning to a worldwide movement during that time. So you had a lot of influences coming from all areas. And there were still cats that were on that bullshit, like we're fresher than you and this and that. Now everyone just hugs and is cool. So there was different. There was none of this animosity and that we had to deal with back then, like rivals and bullshit that we dealt with. I don't see that happening. I see people embracing more now. at least in my world, that's how I see it. I'm sure on the streets, dudes are still ragging each other's shit and going through it. And again, this is their time, right? So their experience today is everything. I've experienced it with some younger cats and went out here and there, and I try and relive it like like it's still, you know, during the time where I was more active, and it just doesn't feel right. It almost feels like a Hollywood set. Like it's just too many things have already polluted it to the point where it's like, yeah, dude, we could pretend you know you only get to do that shit once. So for the younger generation, do as much shit as you can now when it's your time, because you can reflect later and sit back and be like, all right, I did my shit. You know.
How different do you think graffiti was?
Again, to me, it was smaller in the sense that it was just really New York that I was checking for and knew of. So in the sense, that's the biggest difference that I see, is the worldwide influence that it had, that it went on and became, you know, this big movement. So that, you know, knowing graffiti the way I knew it from its inception into my life, where that's all I knew, what was in front of us, right? So the difference then is you got paint companies that sponsor cats. You got cats coming in from all different parts of the world. You don't even know who's from New York or whatever just because you're here. Whereas before, it was a guarantee that you were from here because you're here. We didn't even question, where are you from? No, this is definitely, you know, was the game that was happening there. Then it spread, you know, across America and became a movement within itself. So if it wasn't happening here, it almost kind of didn't count, which is kind of fucked up, but that's actually how it was, you know? So the difference is really the top got blown off of it. That is, to me, the biggest difference. As far as style, yes, I think stylistically, 70s, 80s was the best. That's where I get all my influences, and really I can look at that. I could watch Style Wars, or I could look at old photos and say, this is these cats, you know, this is really where all of this shit was pure and where it comes from. So that's another aspect of big difference, because now you can't tell the lineage of certain influence of people, because so many people have so much information that they could just kind of Frankenstein a piece together from so many different things and create a certain look. And everyone's accessible now, right? Whereas before, it was very mysterious. When you met another writer, you can tell if he was looking out the window on a train or sitting on the platform, or ink on him or whatever, or you ran into him at the rack spot or anything like this. That was it. That's all you had. You didn't go on there and check out what he fucking eats and what kind of sneakers he's wearing. You didn't know any of this stuff. Oh, he's going to be here tonight. No. So big difference. You actually had to get up there and be out there constantly living it. And it made for a most adventurous experience in doing so, because now it's like lazy bullshit, right? Dudes could do one fucking thing, beat the shit out of that picture, put it all over the fucking internet, or have all these other people put it up for him or whatever. What good is that? Where's the experience in that? It's and you can't tell what's what anymore. Dudes are slick like motherfuckers with the lights and the cameras and all of that stuff. So you don't even know what to believe even when you're seeing it. Yeah. But when you see it in real life, then it's different. So you got to get out there and experience, and that's the biggest difference.
You are listening to Living Proof Radio, a radio show and magazine supported by Art Primo, a graffiti shop like no other that has been proudly serving the community from New York to Seattle and beyond. Mops, ink, paint, sketchbooks, markers, and much, much more. Artprimo.com. The highest level.
And I feel like public perception of vandalism, style writing, graffiti, whatever, has changed too. You know, it's like as the medium and as the culture spreads, as more people become aware of it, as they find themselves, like some writers, the 1% of the 1% transitioning into fine art, doing shit like that, it's going to change the perception of what they think a tag is when they see someone doing it, or even when they see it on the street. It might not seem like that gnarly of a thing anymore. Whereas I feel like prior, it was like, this is some like gang, some like,
Yeah, they couldn't decipher it.
yeah,
Now cats will take a tag and get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for taking a tag and it being on whatever or wherever. They'll fucking cut down the building because this is on their building now. So yeah, it's confusing, and there really is no true expert that can say you're this and this one's that. We are our own experts and we police each other. So and criticize each other or compliment each other as it is. So that's really within the culture. If you're accepted and you're doing fresh shit and you getting loose about it, then you know you'll know by your peers and the reaction of other people. But even then, that shit to me, it comes down to like dudes are doing weird shit and they're the man for doing weird different shit, and it just doesn't appeal to me. So I give them 10 points for getting up in the morning and getting up there and doing shit, but the actual end result of what they're doing, I'm not subscribing to it. So then that gets lost.
you're talking about like the changing of styles and shit.
Yeah, like just different.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I feel that too. Like, I feel like that I'm not anybody to say what is what, but I do think there's something to be said
Right.
for tradition and for letters and for like really learning what it is that makes this thing what it is. And that's something that is notoriously known for being difficult, but it is getting, one, shifted completely, and then two, it's also becoming easier to do because of, like you said, the amount of information that's out there.
Right. But again, if we break that down, like for a cat to come out and do something different that hasn't been done or maybe isn't along the lines of what we know as traditionally, stylistically acceptable, let's just put it that way, and they're doing something, it can grow into something. Maybe you have to be patient and not be so quick to judge, and they have to find themselves. Because if everyone kept doing the same shit, like doing a fucking S and doing a this and doing a that and the 3D and cloud, it's like, okay, dude, when is it,
Yeah.
I had a person, we have the roof where we paint, and I had a cat come up there one time and he had nothing to do with the culture. He was an old money cat. Like, he came up there and I showing him around, like, oh yeah, this is me and other artists from around the world, and we get together and we collaborate and we do this thing, and that's me over there, that's my name. And he's like, oh, that's your name? I said, yeah, and that's my name over there, I did that one. And he's like, oh, so let me get this straight. So you guys come out here and you write your names in a bunch of different colors. Am I right? I said, yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah.
We write our names in different colors, So to an outsider, that's all it looks like. He's not going to look at it and say, oh, well, you bent the C this time and you went your 3D this way instead of that way, and I like the way you put that arrow. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody's going to get that except for us. So again, going back to what I said, we are our own experts and we are our own cats that police our own culture and see to it, that the best is out there, and the fraudulent bullshit we don't accept.
Yeah.
So again, subjective, yes, closed-minded or opinionated or any of these things, that's part of graffiti. If you didn't think you were the fucking man, why are you even doing this shit? That's what you got to ask yourself. Like, oh, I just want to tag along with the other people who are cool. You got to really go out there and fucking really try and kill shit.
Yeah. How do you go about doing the fine art that you do now? Do you approach it with the same graffiti ethos? What are you trying to do, and how did you learn how to do this stuff?
I think it was naturally always there. I just had to refine it, and it came from, really practicing in the streets, just doing things and learning colors, learning technique, learning applications and what works better on what, because not everything's on the same, It's not always on steel or on canvas or on metal or wood. So you had to learn the differences. So I approach things. A lot of it is fucking luck. I really don't know. I just know, like, this is what I want to do and what's the best way. How can I get there? And how can I manipulate it to work? And there's been a shit ton of mistakes and growing and learning and fucking things up to get to a certain point. It's not just home runs with me all the time. I only let that out. But there's a lot of struggle and a lot of time in the gym shooting jump shots in order to fucking make that shit happen during the game. In other words, I practice a lot, and I believe in the foundation of doing so, not just doing it when there's money on the table and saying, oh, this is the only time I paint is when opportunity's there. I'm constantly doing it and constantly just building an arsenal and a just ready for the situations as it's happening. And I paint because I love to paint, and that's luck for me to be able to do something that I'm still passionate about and I still enjoy doing it versus it's a job. I don't approach it like a job. I just shut down and just do it. I got good music, and just zone out and paint, and time just goes by, and it's you actually have something and you're proud of it, and you just better it and better the next one and grow from that. So, there is no real way that I could say to somebody, well, this is how you should approach it. It took decades, right? So when you see a painting, it's not that just happened. There are so many things, if we peeled that back, that went into that painting that I can tell you, well, the reason why I put that color with that is because years ago I saw this, or because I went with this, certain situation. So I have a whole catalog of experience of things that I do, and the more that I do, the more experience and hopefully the better it becomes.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I did so much, I can just do anything. I could just splash paint, and just because of who I am and what I do, it's gonna work. No, I'm not there yet, right? I actually like to get in there and get fucked up and messy and fuck shit up and experience it.
So do you see, you don't put any distinction between like your personal life, your job, graffiti, and then your work?
No.
Do you see it all as one?
My life is just one big fucking cartoon. I've been doing the same shit my whole life, and I've enjoyed it, right? So I'm able to live a life of something that I loved and am passionate about since I'm a kid, right? Where I know other cats that I grew up with who I'm close to, and they actually just ended up in situations and have a job and work for this company or own this company, and it's just a means to an end for them to be able to put food on their table or go on vacations with their family and do this. I struggled through hard times of fucking starving, and I've celebrated great times of feeling like like the man. It's a heaven and hell situation. It's not always the best, right? To pull the curtain back and say, wow, what a life. Everything you do is just, no, dude, it doesn't work like that. With art, you really have to stick it out and believe in yourself first and just keep working. And either it works or it doesn't, but I haven't given up. So it must be working.
Yeah. And I feel like it works also because of the fact that there's no like separation for you. I feel like that is the people who go the farthest in their field, is when like their work, quote unquote work, is like just their general life. Like that's what they do. That's what they're passionate about. And so while everyone clocks out of work and goes home to do whatever they really want to do, this person's clocking out to go do more work because that's just what they do.
Well,
so you can't compete with them.
I did do that. I did. I tattooed for 20 years. And to me, that was work.
Yeah.
Right? I was doing what you came in and requested me to do. Like you wanted that panther, or you wanted, whatever. I would do that for you. It wasn't what I felt like doing. It wasn't what I was passionate about. I was able to do it, and it was a means to an end so that I can go off and paint, because that's what was like my first love. I was like cheating on that by doing other things so that I can get back to that. So I've worked in situations where I did what I had to do, and most of the stuff that I did was in and around art, right? I didn't you know, dig ditches or anything like that. I everything had some form of art related to it. So the fact that I was able to now eliminate a lot of this stuff and just focus more on what it is I'm really into and feel strongly about, you know, I'm blessed in that sense that I was able to weather everything that I went through. I mean, I was a sanitation worker back 28 years ago. But, you know, I did what I had to do so that I could go and fucking paint and have a place to fucking rest after I went and painted. It's basically as simple as I can put it as a 20-year-old. So in that sense, I get it. But I did not know. I guess I did know, like I said in the beginning, I manifested this situation. And there are times, and you could ask any artist where you're like, this shit is tough. Like, I really wish I just had a regular job and I was a regular person and I knew exactly what I was going to get every Friday. And it would, you know, direct deposit into my account. And I knew I had sick days and vacation days. I don't have that. Right? So I admire that. But at the same time, when the shit is good, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But you have to be able to believe in yourself to come out the other end and say, okay, this isn't working out. We just gotta just stay the course.
Yeah.
Right. And just keep doing the best regardless of what it is. Don't and that's the other thing. You just can't all of a sudden just start flipping shit out of the trunk of your car just cause. You got to figure out another way and stay true to what it is. You can't all of a sudden devalue what you work so hard to get to a certain level because of A, B, and C situation. You got to figure out another way to maintain.
Yeah.
And make it through that. And, you know, some cats do, some cats don't.
What do you get influence from today? You know, you've painted some trains, painted some street, done fine art, you've done tattooing, you've worked different jobs. You've had a long path and you're still doing shit. How do you maintain this like student mentality, this sort of like beginner's mindset to keep pushing the boundary and gaining influence after like there's already been so much that you've seen and a lot of stuff that you've done?
I honestly, I get influenced from other artists within the culture, right? Or artists in general for that matter. I feel like if I was the only one doing this, I probably wouldn't last very long. So I need other cats like you guys and, you know, the younger cats, the older cats, the mix of everything to keep it alive, like a sport that it is, you know, the culture that it is. Because, you know, it's like if somebody does something, there's like a chain reaction. It's like they went and hit this spot, right? And now you want to do something that provoked something in you. And that was just street shit. But then when you transfer to your fine art and you have a studio practice where you're working and you went to somebody's show and you're like, wow, that shit just blew my mind the way that they went big or they went really detailed or they went, you know, minimal. You know, you vibe off of this shit. At least I do. And so that's, for me, what keeps it fresh and alive is just checking, looking, experiencing. At the same time, it's very good and very healthy, at least for me. I got to keep throwing that in there because I can't preach to somebody, is you also have to take breaks. So if I'm going really hard, and I do go for a good length, I got to take a break. I don't want to hear nothing about graffiti, paint, nothing. I just want to be a regular cat. And I need that in between. It's as important for me to do that is to take a break as it is to paint. And I have to create that balance, right? You can't just be all the time doing this and burn out, and you just, you know, it becomes like blinding. You don't even know what's good anymore. So when you take that break and then you come back into it, it's like it's like a rebirth. Like you just back and you're like, oh shit, you know, I missed this shit. I got these ideas. You can still think and go through it, you know, in your head, but just don't overwhelm and overload yourself. So that's really my approach to things, and my influences come from both sides of the court.
Yeah. Do you feel fully satisfied with where you're at right now in terms of like the things that are important to you and what you've reached? Are you still aiming for more?
No, definitely aiming for more. I feel like the best is yet to come, and I always, believe that, if a fucking meteor landed on this room right now and fucking killed all of us, am I good with where I'm at? I'm pretty good. Am I content in saying like, oh, damn, dude, I wanted to see this or do that, and I never. No, I did a lot of shit. I really did. If truth be told, but I have so much more to give, and I'm still very hungry and very passionate about still fucking killing shit. And I'm not just talking about canvas. I'm talking about painting, getting out there, doing shit. I just love the whole fucking vibe of it. For me, is really where it's at. So no, I'm not where I can say, yeah, that's it. I'm at this level. This is a good level. It's safe, right? That's what ends up happening.
Yeah.
No, I still got a lot to do.
Do you think that there's been or what negative impacts have you had in your life due to painting graffiti and due to having a lot of your life be around and surrounded by graffiti?
Man, I really don't know. I mean, I was able to navigate through a lot of negative shit. I mean, graffiti comes with, if not being arrested and being a fucking outlaw, and people look at you a certain way, that could have been negative. But I had, the support of friends and other writers and things that pushed it through. Then you had other writers who would turn on you and fuck the game up and fuck the whole vibe up. So that could be very misleading. You have cats out here that pretend to be one thing and turn out to be another. So, but I imagine that happens in any sport, culture, or movement for that matter. So that it didn't matter if I was fucking flipping pies. There's a cat down the block that's gonna fucking blackball your fucking pie store. It's just it's human nature. So I think the experiences with graffiti can be minimalized if you're not a dick, right? But you end up mixing it up with people who throw salt in the game, and they're out there. But you realize, like, the good people and the cool people that are aware of that. So when you have good people and you rise to a certain level, there's more good than there is bad, as long as you maintain within. So I haven't had too many terrible experiences where I'm like, yo, like I said, I've gotten fucked over and put in situations and stuff like that really I look back on it. It kind of helped me in the way to grow as a person. But no, again, it's not like I'm fucking racing cars where I fucking flipped over a bunch of times and fucking lost limbs. This has been pretty chill up until today.
Yeah. I guess it's about how you navigate the road.
Right.
Like there's because there are people who have just gotten smoked writing graffiti, but I feel like a lot of those people are the ones who sometimes you just draw a bad hand, but another time it's like you don't know, you're not being what you're supposed to be in that moment. It's like once it's time to do a transition, or once it's time to evolve or whatever, mutate into the next level, you don't, and then you try to maintain this unnatural state of being, and then you're just going against nature, and then boom, some bad shit happens.
Yeah, and again, that could happen if you watch some wild nature shit when the fucking elk walks out into the fucking woods, but the tiger's waiting out there or whatever. Either he has an opportunity to dip and be aware of his surroundings, or he's going to get got, right? So as long as you have an awareness and realize and trust your instinct and your gut, and it'll get you still. It'll still get you. I've gotten it. I've been in positions where I thought somebody was somebody else, or thought a situation was different than what it was, and found out the hard way that's not how it presented itself. So it's a gamble. it's life. You got to get out there and live. You can't not, right? And think, oh, I'm going to leave the house and get hit by a fucking bus, so I'm just going to stay home and not. You got to get out there and change it yourself. But I've met cats that said, oh, I used to write graffiti. I wrote for 1 year, and then I got busted one night, and I never did that shit again. I got caught a bunch of times. I've gotten in all kinds of situations. I don't know. I either I'm fucking hard-headed or what, but I just kept coming back to the fucking well to see, you know, if I can approach it from a different angle. I didn't go in that way the next time, or I went another route. So either you love it or you don't, and you're willing to take the lumps and the bullshit that comes with it. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, you know, thank you for speaking your words, and thank you for letting us in here, and thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, man.
100%. Peace.
Peace.